you.
Someone who loves you.
Let me start this video by asking you a question. What is the opposite of love? And I'm not referring to any specific kind of love, like familial love, romantic love, or agape love. I just mean love in general. Odds are you're probably thinking hatred, or maybe apathy. There's certainly merit to both of those answers, but neither of them is the one presented by Bioware's Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Released back in 2003, KOTOR's unique combat system, groundbreaking reliance on user choice, and absolutely thrilling story easily earned the game what is now referred to by Metacritic as universal acclaim. Its influence on gaming sense is undeniable, and hopefully the upcoming PS5 remake will stay true to that legacy. But we're not here to talk about this game's legacy. We're here to discuss the legend of Revan, a story not born out of hatred or apathy, but one whose roots stem back to a far more personal vice. Ego. The shadow of selfishness, that is. Revan and Malak were once Jedi. When the Mandalorian Wars began, the Jedi Council told the Order to remain neutral, but thinking they knew better, Revan and Malak disobeyed their orders. To be fair, one could argue that their actions were justified and even somewhat noble. I mean, the Mandalorians were the aggressors here. Aren't the Jedi supposed to be the keepers of the peace? Naturally, a Jedi as gifted as Revan led their republic to a decisive victory over the galaxy's most revered warriors. But as is so often the case when the Jedi become soldiers, Revan lost his way. Revan's quest for peace morphed into a desire for control. His selflessness fueled his ego until only a facade of goodness remained in him. So with the fall of the Mandalorians came the rise of the Sith. But then, as it began to seem like the Republic's days were numbered, ego once again reared its ugly head. Revan's apprentice Malak betrayed his master and usurped from him the title of Dark Lord of the Sith. Much to Malak's dismay, however, the demise of Revan created a new hope for the Republic. And this time, it isn't some random kid from a desert planet. It's you. Your gender, class, background, character traits, appearance, and above all else, your name. These are the things that initially define you in KOTOR. These are the things that make you, you. No matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter where you come from, and no matter what kind of life you've lived, make no mistake, the galaxy needs you.
The Republic is in desperate need of someone with your kind of skills. Desperate enough to overlook your shady past.
And boy, do you have to prove that you've got the skills for such an important job, because KOTOR's combat system is like few others. It's round-based, yes, but not in the way that, say, Pokemon is. These rounds are continuous. There's no automatic pause at the beginning of your turn, rather you can pause at any time to re-strategize and even plan out multiple turns in advance for you and your companions alike. Clearly, this isn't your average everyday button-mashing game. It requires real effort to get through these fights. And don't even get me started on the navigation system in this game. The maps, especially the ones on Terrace, are so convoluted and difficult to understand that by the time you beat the game, you'll be an expert navigator, able to immediately pinpoint any location on GeoGuessr. But I'm getting off track here. My point is that KOTOR makes you earn your in-game progress, which makes your choices all the more meaningful. Throughout your adventure, the game presents you with a plethora of dilemmas in which you have the freedom to determine the outcome. Perhaps you'll choose to help this old man get out of paying back a debt to the local crime lord, or perhaps you'll demand he pay you instead. You could help cure the local Rakghoul disease, wiping out the lower city citizens, but selling the anti-serum to the highest bidder is an option as well. Even the smallest of decisions is not without some sort of consequence, as they'll reward you with light side or dark side points depending on what you do. These points determine how moral or immoral your character is, which not only affects future character dialogue, but also determines which force powers can and can't be easily used. This may seem like a balanced system, but don't let KOTOR fool you. The game will continuously reward you for committing immoral acts and punish you for remaining good. Evil actions will fatten your wallet quicker, and more importantly, they'll make powers like Force Lightning far cheaper to use. I've seen a lot of criticism regarding this aspect of the game, but quite frankly, I don't understand why. The dark side is meant to be the quick and easy path, one that generally prioritizes short-term gains over long-term benefits. So of course it's going to let you get richer and more powerful faster. However, there are still drawbacks to such a lifestyle, and KOTOR does not shy away from them. In fact, your first trial as a Jedi is to confront the fallen Padawan Juhani, who chose this quick and easy path. One day during training, Juhani became enraged at her master for underestimating her strength, so Juhani tried to kill her. She then fled the temple and embraced the dark side. Obviously, a Dark Jedi guilty of attempted murder deserves death, but even so, when you arrive to face her, the game gives you a choice unlike any that came before it. In the examples of user choices I presented earlier, the moral decisions were to aid the just, to help the innocent old man and cure the sick lower city residents. But here you are dealing with an unjust individual, one who doesn't deserve your kindness or your pity. Yet the game gives you the option to spare her life anyways. And on top of that, you can even convince her to return to the temple to ask for forgiveness. For the first time in the game thus far, it's the high road that awards you the best result, because for the one and only time in the entirety of the game, it's a moral choice, not credits or story requirements, that make it possible to recruit someone into your crew. Why? Because Juhani realizes that her ego blinded her to her own insecurities, so when given the chance to redeem herself, she takes it.
But though she was saved, do not dismiss what happened to her. Juhani is both dedicated and true to the ideals of the Order, yet she was still vulnerable to the dark side, as are we all.
During the Mandalorian Wars, Revan was an incredibly charismatic and respectable leader, so when he fell to the dark side, countless members of both the Republic military and the Jedi Order followed suit. Even the Jedi sent by the Council to stop Revan and Malak wound up switching sides. The only Jedi to face them and live to tell the tale was, of course, Bastila Shan, a Padawan with an extremely rare Force ability known as Battle Meditation. This power could influence the soldiers fighting for her side and drastically increase their chances of victory. Such a power could prove vital in the one-sided battle against Malak's Sith Armada, so naturally Malak wants her either killed or corrupted. That's actually how the game opens, with a surprise Sith attack on Bastila's ship, an ambush which only Bastila, Carth, and you manage to escape. The first act has you and Carth team up with some of Terrace's citizens in an attempt to rescue Bastila from criminal gangs, and pretty much everything you do on Terrace is in service to this goal. You infiltrate the Sith party, fight lower city goons, rescue Zalbar from slavers, sneak into the Black Vulcar base, fight a big ol' Rancor, and even win a freaking swoop racing tournament, all so that you can finally rescue Bastila. Only for Bastila to break herself out, cause, you know, she's a strong independent woman of the 40th century BBY.
I am so in love with her right now. What? Nothing.
Clearly, it isn't just her battle meditation that makes her strong, she's incredibly gifted with the Force in general, not to mention her lightsaber. But these prodigy-level skills lead her to become overly confident in herself, and Bastila makes sure to let others know just how great she is.
Now that I'm back in charge of this mission, perhaps we can start doing things properly. Hopefully our escape from Terrace will go more smoothly than when you rescued me from Brejik.
I know you're new at this, Bastila, but a leader doesn't berate her troops just because things aren't going as planned. Don't let your ego get in the way of the real issues here.
It led Revan to feel himself wiser than the Jedi Council and fueled his desire to rule the galaxy. It convinced Malak to betray Revan, his oldest friend, and continue the war effort where Revan left off. Then again on Dantooine, Juhani's ego blinded her to her weaknesses, causing her to fall to the dark side. And here it is again in Bastila.
Don't let your ego get in the way of the real issues here.
That hardly strikes me as an appropriate way of addressing your commander, Carth. I'm a member of the Jedi Order, and this is my mission. Don't forget that.
But Bastila has something none of those Jedi had when they were seduced to the dark side. You. Not to say that you won't seduce her, because you very well may. Over the course of the game, it becomes increasingly obvious that there is a powerful bond between her character and yours. In fact, this bond is the key to finding KOTOR's MacGuffins, the star maps, which are needed to pinpoint the location of Malak's Sith factory, the Starforge. So the Jedi Council sends you, Bastila, and the crew of the Yevon Hawk on a mission to find these maps and put a stop to Malak's galactic conquest before it's too late. Now, have you ever found yourself in a new job forced to work alongside new people? For better or worse, these people influence your character over the course of the job. I remember working at Dairy Queen during my senior year of high school, and I can tell you for a fact that my coworkers changed not just my outlook on life, but how I see myself as well. And I'm sure I did the same thing for some of them. This also occurs in KOTOR with Bastila. The more you get to know her, the less egotistical, the less selfish she becomes. Sure, every now and then her ego flares up, but for the most part she overcomes this vice. But in its place rises something equally corrupting: self-doubt. She begins to think that your good actions are not thanks to her guidance. Rather, she comes to believe that every good thing you do is in spite of her influence. Why? Well, it all boils down to Bastila's view of morality. It's what she thinks a good Jedi is supposed to be. Revan, Malak, Juhani, and even Jolee. At one point or another, all these characters went against the instructions of the Jedi Council, and those decisions brought about nothing but pain. Revan started a galaxy-wide war. Malak lost both his best friend as well as his jaw. Juhani nearly killed her master, and Jolee's decision to teach his wife the ways of the Force led to the deaths of many of his friends. To Bastila, these tales showcase that the only way to have a positive effect on the world is to follow the straight and narrow path set out for her by the Jedi Council. Simply put, Bastila holds the opinion that the Council knows best, and following their teachings to a T is what she believes makes her capable of resisting the dark side. That's what she thinks makes her a good person.
Jolee, may I have a moment? There's something I wish to speak to you about.
Yep, I figured it was only a matter of time until we had the whole come back to the order discussion.
I know you have issues with the Order, but you are a Jedi, Jolee. You command the Force. Without the guidance of the Council, how can you avoid falling to the dark side?
Yet despite this belief, Bastila cannot help but be tempted by the bond she shares with your character. She cannot help but desire what the Jedi Council forbids: love. So as she falls in love with your character, she feels that she has subsequently fallen from grace. That is the source of her ever-growing self-doubt. It's why she resists your advances, and it's why she runs away. We've talked a fair bit about corruption already, and even more so about the selfishness driving it. So now let's take a look at the other side, at what it's like to be betrayed. Much like Revan and Malak, Carth fought in the Mandalorian Wars. He came to greatly admire those two over the course of the war, but even more so, he respected his mentor, Admiral Saul Carth. Unfortunately for Carth, though, when Revan and Malak betrayed the Republic, so too did Saul. Carth did everything right. He loved his wife, he set a good example for his son, he stepped up to defend the Republic in its hour of need, and did so valiantly. He more than proved himself to be both a trustworthy soldier and a good man. Carth did nothing to deserve Saul's betrayal, but that didn't stop Saul from killing both his wife Morgana and his son Dustil. Trust, friendship, love. These things are all well and good, but they can easily be taken advantage of. They can easily be betrayed. That's why Carth refuses to trust you, no matter how many times you prove yourself to him.
I don't know that you'll betray me, but there are no guarantees. Not for you, not for me. But think about it, if you can't even trust the best of the Jedi, who can you trust? Why is whether or not I trust you or anyone so damned important? Why do you even care?
Again, Carth is a good man, but such a train of thought leaves him unable to truly enjoy the fruits of his labor. He can find the star maps, kill Saul, defeat Malak, and even save the galaxy. But for what? If he can't put his faith in others, if he can't bring himself to trust his peers, to love his crew, what's the point? To spend the rest of his days secluded and forever disconnected from his would-be friends, much like Jolee once did? But you see, Jolee learned something in his solitude, something very much applicable to Carth's flawed worldview. There's potential for evil in all of us, yes, that's true. But there's an equal, if not greater capacity for each of us to do good, to lead moral, selfless lives. And while Carth may not have 20 years to sit around and learn that lesson like Jolee did, he does have you. So over the course of the mission, you can prove to him that you're just as trustworthy as he is. Because you're not like Revan, Malak, and Saul. Unlike those traitors, you are a good person, a servant of the light side, a keeper of the peace. You are a Jedi. There's this old philosopher from the 1600s named Thomas Hobbes. He argued that the only way to understand mankind was to look back at its origins, at what he called the state of nature. In its purest form, Hobbes said that human life was, quote, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short, because all the cavemen cared about was their own survival. Their individualism made them selfish, which led to what Hobbes called psychological egoism, or more simply put, a self-centered and self-motivated way of life. The only way that the cavemen could escape this life, Hobbes argued, was to sacrifice their natural freedoms in exchange for the security offered by society. This was done by the signing of an unwritten social contract, an agreement to follow the laws set by the society. These societies, these Leviathans, were run by what Hobbes called the sovereign, men with monopolies on violence. But if man is naturally egotistical, then a person with such power must be easily corruptible. Enter Malak, a man who believes society is his to control, whose flagship is fittingly named the Leviathan. After finding the 4th star map, it's this ship, helmed by none other than Admiral Saul Carth, that captures you, that tries to force you into signing the social contract of the Sith. But you're not naturally egotistical like the Sith. You value individual freedoms, and unlike Carth, you put faith in man's potential to do good, just as you put faith in one of your companions to rescue you. If KOTOR has shown you anything up to this point, it's that choice is what makes life worth living, just as it's what makes this game worth playing. Because it's the choice to do good that has made you a good person, just as it's Carth's choice not to kill Saul that opens him up to finally trusting you. Until...
You didn't know, did you?
It can't be true, can it? No, it can't. Damn you, Saul. Damn you. Bastila, it is true, isn't it? And you knew. You and the whole damn Jedi Council, you knew the whole time.
Carth, it's not what you think. We had no other choice. Please, you don't understand.
Something's up. There's a lot more at play here than just stopping Malak. Bastila knows, Carth knows, and even Carth knew. Whatever it is, it's about you. But how could it be? You spent the entire game fighting back against the oppression of the Sith, and along the way you've done so many good deeds. You rescued that old man, you made peace with the Tuskens, you saved Juhani, and you helped the Wookiees. You are a good person. But that doesn't matter right now. Malak's on his way, so you need to leave, ASAP. Hallway after hallway, fight after fight, you rush towards the Ebon Hawk, but that eerie feeling in the back of your mind continues to grow, and those red doors don't help. You can pretty much guess what's about to happen, and that makes this moment all the more terrifying. Malak arrives and immediately overtakes Carth, but you, no, not yet. You may be the only hope in the galaxy at stopping Malak, but Malak doesn't attack you. He knows you. But how could Malak, the Dark Lord of the Sith himself, know you? He's the epitome of evil, a perfect embodiment of the dark side itself, but you're the opposite. You're a lowly Padawan hardly managing to fight off Malak's forces in the hopes of defeating him. But again, don't be fooled. Malak knows you better than you think. Even better than you know yourself, in fact. Malak knows that despite your recent escapades with Carth and Bastila, and despite your acts of kindness along the way, you are far from the saint you believe yourself to be. Much like Malak, you are egotistical. You are a sinner, a killer even. You are in fact quite a bad person. You may not have signed the social contract of the Sith moments ago, but you did something far worse. You wrote the thing yourself, because you are Revan. Your gender, class, background, character traits, appearance, and above all else your name. These were the things that initially defined you in KOTOR. Each of these aspects of your character, though, were all chosen by you. You had the freedom to make your character the best possible extension of yourself because KOTOR did not ask if you have an ego. It did not ask what sins you've committed in the past. And it did not ask the hard-hitting question, are you a good person? KOTOR knows that no matter how moral you generally act, you have never and will never be perfect. And unlike the customizable traits I mentioned before, this is a universal truth of humanity. A checkered past is something we all have in common, so KOTOR gives you one.
It's true. I was part of the team sent to capture Revan, to capture you. When Malak fired on the ship, you were badly injured. We thought you were dead. Your mind was destroyed, but I used the Force to preserve the flicker of life in your body. I brought you to the Jedi Council.
The Jedi Council didn't restore your wounded mind, Revan. They merely programmed it with a new identity, one loyal to the Republic. They tried to make you their slave.
And it's this revelation of your past allegiances that makes Bastila's resistance to advances all the more understandable. Yet despite this unfortunate truth about yourself, Bastila came to see Revan as something more than a Sith. She saw him as a trusted ally, a true friend, as someone worthy of her love and devotion.
The truth is, I have come to depend on you. Not just for the sake of the mission, but for my own sake as well. I'm glad you're with us.
Whether she admits it to you or not, Bastila does love Revan. The Council would never approve of this love, sure, but right now, as Malak gains the upper hand in his fight against you, that's irrelevant. So she steps in to save Revan from the end of the path he sent himself down the day he embraced the dark side. She sacrifices herself to save you, flaws and all. It's the least she can do for a loved one, after all. So you and Carth escape the Leviathan while Bastila reluctantly accepts the unfortunate fate of becoming Malak's prisoner. The woman who was once so egotistical now finds herself imprisoned by the man embodying that very vice. Now make sure you take note of that thought because we'll be coming back to it soon. But for now, your crew deserves the truth. And Carth especially deserves to know if he was right to distrust you all this time.
The whole time we've been chasing after Malak, we've had his old Sith master right at our side, listening to our secrets, hearing our plans.
You're Darth Revan? That's big. Do you remember anything about being the Dark Lord? Just a few flashes. That's it. Nothing more? Then I don't think there's a problem. It seems to me that if you don't really remember anything about being Revan, then it doesn't really matter anymore. You are who you are now, right?
And there it is, folks. We've all made mistakes. We've all sinned. But the sins of the past do not change the here and now. All you can do is keep moving forward despite your sins, and head to the next star map, fittingly located on Korriban.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me.
That is the Sith code, the essence of their philosophy, not to mention the dogma that Revan once embraced. And now, here you are returning to its birthplace, forced to relearn the ways that brought you to the cusp of galactic domination. Conspiring against the higher-ups, betraying your peers, killing the weak-minded renegade students. Acts like these are hailed as prestigious in the Sith community because they all maximize benefits for oneself. They are all centered around the Sith philosophy of psychological egoism. Speaking of Thomas Hobbes, the funny thing about the Sith is that despite claiming that they are bringing order to the galaxy through their social contract, the psychological egoism you see the students of Korriban live and die by is actually the essence of the state of nature. It's a solitary, brutish, and short way of life centered on oneself. A philosophy that is by definition self-destructive.
Is it not obvious what we did? We destroyed each other. We desired the secrets of each other to increase our power. We battled until finally our fortress rained down on top of us.
The Sith consumed themselves, did they? I suppose that eventually they'd be all they'd have left to fight.
But nothing on Korriban showcases this fundamental flaw of the Sith better than Dustil, Carth's once presumed dead son. When Saul betrayed the Republic by attacking Dustil's homeworld, the Onasi boy was captured by Sith forces. Upon realizing that he was Force-sensitive, though, his life was spared. Eventually, as a rescue mission by his father became a pipe dream, Dustil learned to embrace the Sith way of life, because unlike his father, he thought they actually cared.
I have a new family now, a family that cares about me. I don't need you.
The Sith? You can't mean that.
The Sith give me everything I need.
You can't mean that. The Sith they're evil. They're the dark side. If I failed you, son, then it's my failure. Please don't add to it by becoming part of something evil.
Prove it. Prove that the Sith are so evil, and I'll think about it.
Easy enough. Like I said, they're fundamentally flawed. So all you have to do is show him a tablet saying that the Sith had his friend killed for hindering his training, and he will agree to forego their creed.
You go do whatever you have to, Father. I have some other friends here. I have to warn them what's going on. And maybe I can, look around here and find out some more information from the inside.
I'm proud of you, Dustil. You aren't hanging on to a lie after you see it for what it is. Not everyone could do that.
Maybe after this is all over we can talk. I'm still not sure about us, but I'll listen. Maybe we can get back to where we should have been.
Well, I'd like that.
I'll go back to Telos when this is over. You can find me there. Goodbye, Father.
Goodbye, son.
Here, on the homeworld of the Sith, in the very temple that teaches its students the importance of egoism, love wins out. Because Carth, the man infamous for refusing to trust others, puts his faith in a Sith, trusts his son because of love. And it's this, not the death of Admiral Carth, that finally brings Carth peace, that finally makes him capable of trusting others, even Revan. So you keep going. You find the last star map and finally discover the location of the Star Forge. After all this time, you're finally prepared to put a stop to the Sith fleet. You're ready to rescue Bastila and defeat Malak once and for all. But what Star Wars story would be complete without another happy landing?
We've got problems. We've flown in some kind of disruptor field. All my instruments are jammed. We've got massive overloads in all systems. I'm picking up a single planet in this system. I'll try and put us down there. Hold on. This may be a rough landing.
The planet you land on, despite its absence on any official maps, is far from uncharted. In fact, Malak and Revan discovered this place just a few years ago in their search for the Star Forge. But even they were far from the first ones to land here. Over 20,000 years before, this planet was the capital of the Infinite Empire, the creators of the Star Forge. They were once a proud people who used their mastery of the dark side, not to mention their advanced technology, to conquer and subsequently enslave the galaxy. Unfortunately for them, though, their corrupt, self-centered use of the Star Forge led to their downfall. Or in other words, their ego paved the way for the Infinite Empire's demise. Learning from their past mistakes, the Rakatans, the last remnant of the Infinite Empire, entrusted Revan and Malak with the destruction of the Star Forge. But of course, the fallen duo failed to heed the moral of the Rakatan story, and used the Star Forge to once again start galactic conquest. So now, here you are returning to the very place Revan set all of this in motion. Despite its violent, dark, and disturbing past, this place is far more beautiful to behold than anything you've seen on your journey thus far. This planet is a tropical world, a place of life and warmth, but at the same time it serves as a massive graveyard for unsuspecting travelers who flew too close to the sun, or in this case, the Starforge. But despite its unique feel, in it remains a tinge of familiarity. It is a coming together of both the light side of Dantooine and the darkness of Korriban, of the peaceful nature of Manaan and the violent politics of Kashyyyk, because it's here that a Jedi once fully embraced the dark power of the Starforge, and it's here that he may redeem himself by restoring peace throughout the galaxy. After feeling the sting of betrayal yourself, after returning to the light side and forming a strong bond with the woman Revan would have least expected, after retracing the steps of your past self to find the star maps that led you here, Revan is finally ready to own up to his past mistakes and atone for his sins. But this world doesn't make that an easy feat. It throws a lot at Revan, at you, along the way. You have to fight off Rakata warriors whose leader then sends you to kill the elders of an opposing tribe. Along the way you have to fight a bunch of big ol' rancor, then finally after crossing the map, you find out that the elders are actually the good guys, and that they are the ones that you betrayed as Revan. So you have to convince them to give you another chance just so that you can cross the map again, fighting more rancor as you go, as well as a couple Mandalorians. Then when you finally get back to the warrior base, you have to take on an entire army of Rakata warriors, as well as their freaking battle rancor. And once they're defeated, you have to storm their base and slaughter their entire faction, and some more rancor! Just so that the elders let you into the Temple of the Ancients, where you fight a bunch of Sith assault droids, not to mention their Dark Jedi Masters, as you navigate the many dark halls in order to solve a stupid floor puzzle in the basement. But finally, after all of that insanity, you make it to the roof, where you see the light at the end of the tunnel. And what a bright light it is! Through the doorway you can see Bastila outside, waiting for you. After all that work, you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can lift the disruptor field and rescue Bastila from Alec's grasp. But sadly, no good deed goes unpunished. No matter the era, the Jedi Council is infamous for refusing to believe that one's emotions, that one's attachments, are a good thing. And it's this central dogma of the Order, literally included in the Jedi Code itself, that created Bastila's self-doubt as she began to fall in love with Revan. But it's so much more than that. Remember how I mentioned that over the course of a job, you and your coworkers will grow to become more like each other? Well, imagine if you were working a job the way you were told was right, but then a dude comes in who's infamous for doing it the wrong way, but still manages to be better than you at the job in every sense of the word. That's what it was like for Bastila, a Jedi, to knowingly be partnered with and subsequently be outdone by the Dark Lord of the Sith himself. Naturally, seeing your skill and mastery of the Force when compared to hers must have made her rethink the Jedi Order's way of thinking. Why deny her passion when Revan's embracing of their bond makes him all the stronger? Why dot the Council's I's and cross their T's when the man who didn't has done far more in the fight against Malak than they ever will? Why accept the serenity of the Jedi over the passion of the Sith when serenity has pushed the Jedi to the brink of extinction, while passion has made both Revan and Malak far more powerful than the Jedi Council will ever be?
Well, it doesn't have to... That's a good question. I don't know.
Are the Council's teachings fundamentally flawed? Yes. But in realizing this, Bastila makes a fatal mistake, one that will undoubtedly cost the Republic many lives in the battles to come. And you guessed it, this mistake is born out of ego. Bastila concludes that it was wrong for the Council to deny her her passions as opposed to her love. What's the difference? Well, passion is an inward emotion focusing on one's own enjoyment of a thing, while love is outwardly appreciating something for its own sake. Simply put, passion is a means to an end.
I am more powerful than the Chancellor. I can overthrow him. And together you and I can rule the galaxy.
While love is an end in itself.
I love you!
So with this egotistical view of the Jedi Order's flaw, Bastila willingly joins Malak and embraces the dark side. Before KOTOR even began, it was Bastila and her team of Jedi that boarded Revan's ship to face down the Dark Lord, and despite having the perfect opportunity to kill Revan, Bastila saved his life instead. It was through this act that the bond between the two was born, a bond that has led them both to this pivotal moment in the story. Not in some dark cave or eerily lit hallway, but rather atop this temple, in the warm sunlight under the blue sky, surrounded by the many beautiful sculptures of times past. Just like Bastila once did for you, your goal here is to spare her life, and maybe, just maybe, bring her back to the light. Because as you quickly prove to her, the Sith are on the losing side, but Bastila doesn't see it that way. After everything I just said about the Jedi Order's fundamental flaw, how could she? Rather, Bastila holds the opinion that you, not the Jedi, are the winning side. And with all that raw power within you, it would be a crime if you didn't use it to reclaim your rightful place as Dark Lord of the Sith. So while you try to save Bastila, Bastila tries to seduce you. This is such a genius move on the writer's part. If it were Malak trying to convince you to join the dark side, you'd see his prosthetic jaw and hear his electronic voice, then immediately conclude that such a decision would be, as I said before, self-destructive. But Bastila, a pretty young woman with a soothing voice, is a far more enticing defender of the dark side's benefits. And more importantly, Bastila is the woman who's guided you all along your journey. She's the one with whom you share a powerful bond, not to mention your romantic feelings. Her proposal to become Revan's
lover and apprentice,
as you usurp Malak's throne and take over the galaxy, that is truly tempting. It's not the classic "the dark side has cookies" argument that's being made here. It's your bond, the very thing that's redeemed you, that's given you a second chance, that's given you friends, that's given you love, that is offering you ego. It's twisted, inward opposite. And you can take it. You can join Bastila right now, kill Jolee and Juhani, then take over the Starforge and rule the galaxy. All you have to do is say yes. Or you can stay true to everything that you've learned over the course of your adventure. You can heed the past mistakes of the Infinite Empire, the Sith, Jolee, Juhani, Malak, Revan, and now Bastila as well, and make the better choice, to say no to ego. You can instead try to convince Bastila that your bond is not a means to an end, but rather an end in itself, and that life is far more meaningful when you look outwardly towards others rather than inwardly towards yourself. Please, Bastila, if you feel anything for me, you won't do this. That is the only line in this conversation that gets Bastila to hesitate. And just like she did in the Ebon Hawk when she kissed Revan, all Bastila can do upon hearing you say that is deny her feelings and run away. You disengage the disruptor field, and finally, after all the twists and turns KOTOR has had to offer, it's time to put a stop to Malak. It's time to attack the Starforge. The Starforge and the Sith fleet are already worthy adversaries in themselves, but with Bastila's battle meditation at Malak's disposal, the Sith Armada is nearly invincible. At the request of the Republic fleet, you and your crew accompany a Jedi strike team infiltrating the Starforge, with the joint goals of stopping Bastila from influencing the battle, and killing Malak. As you navigate this large, dark, lifeless place, the bright pathway on which you walk quickly begins to feel like the veins of the Starforge, of the dark side itself, as if it were a living being. As you follow this eerie pathway, you face off against a seemingly endless stream of assault droids, soldiers, ion turrets, dark Jedi, and Sith. Around every corner, behind every door, you're sure to have your strength tested by the enemies flooding in to meet you. Overcoming the short-term power of these egotistical Sith is certainly a daunting task, but with the new skills and tremendous strength you've acquired throughout your adventure, not to mention your resolve to see this through to the end, you manage to push through their defenses and reach the Starforge's heart, the command center, where Revan, the galaxy's last hope, must face off against Bastila Shan. When their bond was first forged, it was Bastila and her Jedi strike team that infiltrated Revan's ship. But here it's Revan and his Jedi strike team that make their way to Bastila. Their roles have quite literally flipped in this grand tale.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Naturally, just as before, you don't want to kill Bastila. Rather, you want to give her the very thing she once granted you. A chance at redemption.
You're wasting your time. I've seen the Jedi for what they are. Weak and afraid. The Sith are the true masters of the Force.
This is Bastila at her peak performance, for now at least. The dark side is the quick and easy path, after all. Her embracing of the dark side, not to mention the Starforge's amplification of it, makes Bastila a truly formidable opponent, especially one-on-one. But it's not the fact that you can keep up with her that makes Bastila realize that she's made a mistake, nor is it your calling out of the self-destructive nature of the Sith's social contract that convinces her to change sides. Even after defeating her here, proving to Bastila once and for all that the light side is superior, Bastila fails to see the whole truth. Yes, Bastila now knows that the passion-born power promised by the Sith was far from what she had expected. But remember that her initial fall from grace was due to her realization that the Jedi Code is also flawed. The Jedi's inability to accept their emotions and the Sith's fixation on theirs are, in fact, the very things that led her to this fight. And Bastila even points that out.
That bond is what took me down this path to begin with. It poisoned me. I hated myself for loving you, and now I have betrayed everything.
So what can possibly redeem her? Well, it was her desire to embrace her passions that corrupted her. Much like Malak, Revan, and Juhani, it was her ego that drove her to the dark side. And what did I say is the opposite of ego? Following Carth's example, you can prove that Revan loves Bastila by placing your trust in her, despite the fact that she does not deserve it in the slightest, just as he never did. And through this selfless decision, through this act of love, you give Bastila the chance to redeem herself. And she takes it.
You were brave, and some would say foolish. But you were also right. The dark side has not wholly consumed me. I cannot raise my blade against you.
Why? Because this adventure has shown her that the serenity of the Jedi and the passions of the Sith are not what make life worth living. It's love that does. And finally, she's ready to embrace this truth.
And you said you loved me. This may not be the best time to say it, but I love you too, with all my heart. Aww. After this, no. Nothing could make me feel safer than to be loved by you.
It's like Jolie said.
Love causes pain, certainly. Inevitably, love is going to lead to as much sorrow and regret as it does joy. The Jedi, with their damnable sense of over-caution, would tell you love is something to avoid. Thankfully, anyone who's even partially alive knows that's not true. Love doesn't lead to the dark side. Passion can lead to rage and fear, and can be controlled. But passion is not the same thing as love. Controlling your passions while being in love, that's what they should teach you to beware. But love itself will save you, not condemn you.
But this fight isn't over quite yet. Malak, the essence of egoism itself, awaits you. This man is so lost in his delusions of grandeur that any attempt to redeem him is immediately tossed out the window. All that matters to Malak is proving himself better than Revan. Better than you. And he will destroy anyone, drain anything to do it. Throughout this duel against his former master, Malak, through the Starforge, drains the power from fallen Jedi warriors in order to keep himself alive. That is the dark side. That is ego. A jawless, lonely, power-hungry man taking from those who at this point you would have thought had nothing left to lose. And as I've said multiple times now, such a way of life is self-destructive. So eventually you gain the upper hand, and finally, after all this time, you defeat Malak. Dying on the cold metal ground below, Malak can do nothing but envy your position. Envy the fact that you changed, and he didn't, despite knowing full well he chose not to.
I wanted to be master of the Sith and ruler of the galaxy, but that destiny was not mine, Revan. It might have been yours, perhaps, but never mine. And in the end, as the darkness takes me, I am nothing.
So while Revan returns to the Temple of the Ancients to celebrate the Republic's victory amongst the Rakatans, the Republic soldiers, the Jedi, his friends, and the love of his life, Malak, who thought himself so great, worthy of dictating the fate of the entire galaxy, dies in vain. That is the result of selfishness. That is the sole fruit of ego. The legend of Revan, the Prodigal Knight, is a story of redemption on a far grander scale than those of Red Dead Redemption 2's Arthur Morgan or Avatar: The Last Airbender's Zuko. But don't let that fool you into believing it is any less relatable. KOTOR is a game that prides itself on user choice after all. Revan's story is not one weaved by the writers at Bioware back in the early 2000s. Rather, it was crafted by you through the decisions you made while playing this masterpiece of a game. No matter what way your story played out though, the almost universal headcanon of KOTOR is that Revan, male or female, black or white, scoundrel or soldier, wielding one lightsaber or two, redeemed himself in the end. Because all of us, no matter who we are, see ourselves in his character. A man who strayed from the right path but was given the opportunity to correct himself. What about that is not relatable? I doubt you've tried to take over the galaxy, but even so, I'm certain that at some point in your life you gave into your ego. I know I have. But Revan's story is a reminder that we can all keep moving despite our sins, regardless of their gravity. Because just as it is with me, the past is in the past. Here and now, you have two options. You can either look inwardly towards yourself, or outwardly towards others. You can live amongst friends, or die alone. You can love yourself, or be loved by others. And just as it is in Bioware's Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, it's your choice.